Dana Cruz's voice sliced through the immigration hall like a rusted blade the moment she spotted Ariel. "Hey, you! Yeah, the little black girl with the premium folder. What are you pretending to be today? Someone important?" Heads turned instantly. Ariel Myers, 15, black, soft-spoken, cocoa-brown skin, braided bun, wearing a Navy scholarship jacket, froze mid-step. She had arrived early, clutching her sealed folder containing urgent safety documents from her mother. Her backpack was small, her posture careful, her eyes steady. She wasn't trying to stand out. She never did. But humiliation had already chosen her. Dana Cruz, 42, white, sharp-jawed, smug, the kind of officer who enjoyed watching people shrink under her stare, began walking toward Ariel with slow, predatory steps. Her badge swung from her neck like a threat, and her smirk grew with every stride. "Step forward," Dana barked. "Or are you deaf too?" Ariel swallowed, stepping into the harsh fluorescent light. "I'm just here to— I don't care what you're here to do," Dana snapped. "You kids always think you can slide through VIP lines with fake smiles and fake papers. Let me guess, you printed that passport at home? On your cousin's busted printer?" Laughter rippled from a few bystanders, uncomfortable, cowardly. Ariel held her breath. She had been taught not to escalate, not to spark fire where fire was already burning. "My documents are in order. I'm traveling alone, but—" Dana snatched the folder from Ariel's hands. "Of course you're traveling alone. Figures. Where's Mommy today? Too busy for her little charity case?" Ariel's chest tightened. She did not answer. Dana flipped through the passport with exaggerated disgust. "Look at this. Black girl with a diplomatic stamp? Premium clearance? What is this? Some kind of joke?" Ariel stayed silent. Dana leaned closer, her voice dropping into venom. "You think wearing that little scholarship jacket makes you special? It just screams overachieving nobody." Ariel's knuckles tightened around the strap of her backpack, but her voice stayed soft. "I have an urgent connection. I need to deliver these documents." Dana cut her off with a bark of laughter. "Documents? Honey, the only document you should be carrying is a behavior report. Don't play smart with me." Behind them, the line grew. Whispers floated through the air, cameras lifted, but no one stepped forward. Ariel reminded herself of something her mother always said: "Grace is power wrapped in silence." A truth echoed in Scripture. "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Exodus 14:14. She breathed it in. Dana noticed the calm and despised it. "Wipe that holy look off your face." Dana shoved the passport toward the light. "You don't get to look calm when I haven't finished humiliating you." Ariel trembled, but not from fear, from restraint, from the rising urgency of what she carried, from the knowledge that every minute mattered. "Ma'am," she whispered, "I'm delivering safety reports to an aviation conference. It's urgent." Dana stepped back and laughed louder than before. "Safety reports? You?" "Girl, stop pretending. Nobody trusts a kid like you with real work. The only urgent thing here is me teaching you your place." Ariel's breath caught. Dana shook her head with theatrical disgust. "You know what? I'm done with this." She raised the passport. Ariel's heartbeat slammed against her ribs. And then, "Reepa." The sound tore through the hall like a scream. Dana ripped the passport down the middle, letting the pieces flutter toward the floor like dead petals. There. Problem solved. No passport, no lies, no flight. Gasps erupted. Someone whispered, "Is she allowed to do that?" Dana spread her arms arrogantly. "I can do whatever I want. This is my checkpoint." Ariel stared at the torn pieces, the lifeline to her mission, scattered across the cold tiles. Her breathing shook. Not because of the insult, not because of the humiliation, not even because of the cameras capturing every second, but because she knew what this meant. She was supposed to be on a flight delivering documents that could prevent catastrophe. Now she was stranded, and time was slipping away. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but she did not crumble. She simply bent down, picked up the torn pieces, and whispered a quiet prayer beneath the rising noise around her. Dana scoffed. "Pray all you want, sweetheart. God's not getting you on that flight." Ariel rose slowly, dignity intact, voice quiet, eyes full of a truth Dana did not yet understand. He already has. If you have ever watched someone abuse their power just because they could, then what happens next with Ariel will make you hold your breath. Don't forget to like and subscribe and stay with Dignity Voices to follow her journey. Because when Ariel misses her flight, the whole world feels the consequence. The immigration hall felt like it had swallowed the air whole. Ariel stood motionless, clutching the torn pieces of her passport. Around her, the shifting sea of passengers either stared openly or pretended they saw nothing. Phones hovered mid-air, filming. The humiliation wasn't over. Dana made sure of that. Dana Cruz folded her arms, eyes burning with triumph. "Look at you, black princess without a kingdom. No passport, no flight, no importance." Ariel kept her silence, not from weakness, but from discipline. The trainee officer nearby, Evan Ortiz, 23, Latino, new, nervous, watched with discomfort. He had seen Dana get loud before, but never like this. Not with a child. Not this deliberately cruel. His fingers hovered over his radio, but he hesitated. Dana noticed the hesitation and barked, "Ortiz, don't even think about it. This is my checkpoint." Evan froze. Ariel's voice was barely audible. "I really need to make that flight." Dana rolled her eyes dramatically. "And I need a vacation to Bora Bora. But life isn't fair, sweetheart." A man from the line stepped forward. "She's a kid. You can't just—" Dana spun around. "You want your whole family flagged for secondary inspection? No? Then stay in your lane." Silence. Ariel's phone buzzed inside her jacket pocket. A message from her mother. "Everything okay? Let me know when you're through security." Ariel didn't dare reply. Her hands were shaking. Dana grabbed the sealed document folder from Ariel again. "Let's see what you were so desperate to deliver." Ariel's stomach dropped. "Please, those are confidential." Dana ripped open the seal with her fingernail. "Confidential? You?" She burst into laughter. "Girl, you can barely speak up for yourself. What could you possibly carry that matters?" The hall grew sharper, colder. Ariel's heart hammered. Inside the folder were safety reports, technical assessments, and a letter written in her mother's firm, elegant handwriting. The letter addressed to Global Aviation Safety Council. A letter that should have been delivered today. Dana scanned the first page and scoffed loudly. "Urgent mechanical risk factor reporting." She mimicked the words in a mocking baby voice. "What? You wrote this? You magically turned into an engineer overnight?" Ariel forced her voice steady. "My mother wrote those. I'm delivering them on her behalf. It's important." Dana snapped her head up. "Your mother? What's she? Head of janitorial services." Something flickered across Evan's face. He had heard rumors, whispers that a new airline CEO was taking over one of the world's biggest carriers, and that she was a black woman. Could that be? No, it couldn't. Dana smirked wider. "Let me guess. Mommy works customer service. She's got a big ego like you, huh? Thinks she's someone she's not?" Ariel felt a mix of fear and anger rise in her chest, but fear never touched her eyes. She met Dana's stare with quiet stillness. That bothered Dana more than shouting ever could. "You know what?" Dana said, voice dripping with venom. "I'm filing you as non-compliant. Any officer sees that note, they'll give you hell. Good luck traveling anywhere." Evan swallowed hard. "Ma'am, she's just a minor. There's no cause to—" Dana snapped. "Ortiz, if you defend her again, you'll be cleaning the lost luggage carts until retirement." Ariel stepped forward despite the command. "I lost my flight because of you. But the thing I'm carrying, it isn't just about me." Dana leaned in close, her breath sour with arrogance. "Sweetheart, nothing about you is important enough to affect anybody else's life." And that was the moment, the precise moment, when the universe shifted its weight on the scale. Somewhere across the world, a Continental blue aircraft taxied onto a runway. A mechanical warning had not yet been flagged. A system flaw remained unnoticed. Lives had shifted into danger. And Ariel's flight, the flight she was supposed to be on, documents in hand, had already departed without her. A ripple of quiet dread passed through Ariel's chest. She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew the consequence wasn't small. It was catastrophic. Dana pressed a form into Ariel's hands. Congratulations. You're grounded. Maybe forever. Security will escort you out. Ariel didn't break. She simply gathered the torn passport pieces and the ripped envelope, lifted her chin, and whispered, "I forgive you." Dana blinked. "Forgive? Girl, you don't get to forgive me. I didn't do anything wrong." But something in the air shifted, a trembling, invisible thread tightening around fate. Evan watched Ariel walk away, escorted by 2 agents. He felt sick. He knew what Dana had done was more than humiliation. It was a violation, and something inside him whispered, "This is going to come back, in a way none of us expect." Ariel stood inside the TSA secondary inspection room, a cold, windowless space that smelled of metal trays and fluorescent heat. 2 guards stood by the door, stiff and silent. She wasn't handcuffed, but she might as well have been. The humiliation from the immigration hall still clung to her like wet smoke. Dana Cruz entered without knocking. "Well, look at you," she sneered. "Little Miss Premium Passenger sitting in my detention room like she belongs here." Ariel didn't respond. She sat straight, hands folded tightly in her lap, not in defiance, but in dignity. That only enraged Dana more. She paced the room like a cat ready to pounce. "I checked your story, kid. Guess what? Nobody cares." She slapped the torn passport fragments onto the metal table. "Still trash?" Ariel inhaled slowly. "I need to get another flight. Those documents—" Dana cut her off with a harsh laugh. "Those papers aren't saving you." She mimicked Ariel's soft voice. "I'm delivering safety reports. Please, you're 15. You can't even deliver a pizza." Ariel pressed her lips together. Dana leaned close, her voice dripping contempt. "You know what girls like you do? Start trouble. Fake stories? Play the victim. You think this whole airport revolves around you?" Ariel met her eyes. Calm, steady. Dana slammed her palm on the table. "Don't you dare look at me like that. Like you're better than me," Ariel whispered gently. "I wasn't—" "Shut up." Dana's eyes narrowed. "What are you even doing in priority lanes? No way someone like you affords that." Ariel felt the words sting, but she held her stillness. She remembered what her mother always taught her. Dignity is your armor when hatred has no logic. A quiet voice rose in her memory, a verse she clung to. "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you." Psalm 56:3. The words steadied her breathing. Dana noticed that calmness, hated it. She swept her hand over the safety documents on the table. "These mean nothing. You don't matter. Your mom doesn't matter. None of this matters." Ariel swallowed hard. "It does matter. People could—" Dana snorted, cutting her off. "People could what, Ariel? Drop dead if you don't deliver these papers?" Ariel hesitated, because the truth was dangerously close to that. Dana leaned even closer, her voice a cruel whisper. "You have no idea how small you are in the real world. I could throw these papers in the trash and no one would notice." Ariel's hands tightened around her knees. "You're wrong." Dana's eyebrows rose. "Oh, I'm wrong. Enlighten me then. What world-saving job does Mommy Dearest have?" Ariel didn't answer. Dana laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "That's what I thought. Just another nobody raising a nobody." Ariel felt something inside her tighten, not anger, but sorrow. Dana shoved a clipboard toward her. "Sign this. It states you attempted to travel with invalid documents and gave false statements to TSA officers." Ariel's eyes widened. "That's not true." "Doesn't need to be true, sweetheart. It just needs your signature." Ariel pushed the clipboard back. I won't sign a lie. Dana tilted her head mockingly. Oh, we've got a brave little hero. Evan Ortiz stood outside the room, watching through the small window. His jaw tightened. He had seen enough, but he waited, hoping someone else would step in. No one did. Dana paced again. Your flight is gone. Your passport is trash. You're grounded until your mom drags herself here to fix your mess, assuming she even can. Ariel exhaled, voice trembling. It wasn't a mess until you touched it. The room froze. Dana's face darkened. What did you just say? Ariel lowered her eyes. I just meant, you didn't have to treat me like this? Dana slammed the table again. I treat people based on what they deserve, her lip curled. And you deserve to be knocked down the second you stepped in here acting like you belonged with the elite. Ariel felt her heart sink. All she wanted was to deliver her mother's documents on time. All she wanted was to be responsible, helpful, worthy of trust. She didn't ask for attention. She didn't ask for humiliation. She just asked for enough time to save lives. Dana didn't know she had already taken that time away. A knock came at the door. Another agent. Ma'am, the agent said. There's news. A Continental blue aircraft is reporting a... Dana snapped. Not now. But Ariel looked up sharply. Her instincts prickled. What aircraft? She asked. The agent hesitated. A CB-92 series. They're reporting mechanical abnormalities mid-flight. Ariel felt her chest collapse inward. Dana waved dismissively. Mechanical issues happen. Planes land. This isn't your business. But Ariel knew better. She knew exactly what was in those safety documents. And she knew the problem was no coincidence. Her voice cracked as she whispered, It's happening. Dana rolled her eyes. Save the drama. You're not a prophet. You're a teenage liar with a big imagination. But for the first time, Dana looked uneasy. Ariel sat taller, eyes steady despite fear. Her dignity had never looked more powerful. If you've ever watched injustice unfold while everyone stayed silent, then what happens next will hit hard. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with Dignity Voices to witness the moment everything begins to unravel. Because the flight Ariel was meant to warn is now fighting for its life in the sky. The airport didn't learn the truth in a whisper. It learned it in a roar. A low, sudden alarm rolled across the terminal TVs, the kind that makes people stop walking mid-stride, coffee cups pausing halfway to lips, children clutching parents' coats without knowing why. The screens flickered from ads and departure boards to a breaking news banner. Continental Blue Flight CB-208 declares mid-air emergency, pilots report mechanical system anomaly, emergency landing imminent. The terminal's hum died to a stunned hush. At the far end of the concourse, a gate agent dropped her headset. A businessman froze at the bar, eyes widening. Passengers began to gather like gravity had pulled them toward the screens. The air thickened with a dread so sudden it felt physical. Inside secondary inspection, Ariel didn't need the TV to feel it. She heard it. A change in the hallway outside, radios clicking faster, footsteps no longer measured, but hurried. A voice raised in panic somewhere beyond the door. Then another. The kind of chaos that doesn't knock. It floods. Dana Cruz stood at the table, stiff as a streetlight. Her posture didn't scream fear, but her eyes did. An agent hurried past the inspection window. Another sprinted back in the opposite direction. Someone's radio squawked with clipped urgency. CB-208 reporting hydraulic instability. Possible flap failure. Prepare emergency corridor. Dana's mouth opened like she wanted to take control of the building itself. Nothing came out. Ariel's hands shook, but her voice was steady when it finally rose. It's the CB-92 series, she said quietly. Dana snapped her head toward her, irritated and rattled at once. What did you say? Ariel swallowed. Her throat felt full of sand. The aircraft model. The flaw. That's what those documents were about. Dana blinked. Once, twice. like she hadn't understood the words in her own language. "You're guessing." Her voice tried to sound sharp. It didn't. "You don't know anything about airplanes." Ariel looked down at the torn pieces of her passport on the table, then at the ripped open folder, then back up at Dana. "I know what my mother found," she said. "I know what she wrote, and I know that report needed to be in the council's hands today. Hours ago." Dana let out a false scoff, but it came out thin. "Stop acting like this is about you." Ariel didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "It is not about me," she said. "It's about every person on that flight." A beat of silence hit the room like a pressure drop. Outside, the airport started to move like a living organism in shock. Sirens wailing beyond the glass, emergency vehicles swarming the runway, security corridors snapping into place. A cluster of passengers knelt in the concourse and prayed. Someone cried openly. Someone else called their spouse with trembling hands. The newsfeed shifted to shaky live footage. A plane circling wide over the city, limping through the sky like a wounded animal. The caption read, "Pilot reports control issues. Landing attempt underway." Dana stared through the inspection window now, not at the chaos, but as if the sky itself were leaning down to accuse her. She turned back to Ariel, voice strained. "If you're lying," Ariel's eyes glistened. "I'm not." Dana looked at the papers again, really looked this time, not with contempt, with panic. She flipped to the technical summary page she'd mocked earlier. Her lips started to move silently as she read. The more she read, the more the blood left her face. Ariel watched her like someone watching a storm roll in. Dana slammed the folder shut like it burned her hands. This can't be connected." Ariel didn't argue. She didn't need to. A loud announcement boomed across the terminal, echoing down the corridor even into secondary inspection. "Attention! Continental Blue Flight CB-208 is making an emergency landing. All emergency response units to stations. Please remain calm." Remain calm. Nobody did. The commotion outside snapped into frantic rhythm. TSA managers walked fast with hard voices, clipping orders through radios. A few officers rushed toward the runway exits. People pressed to the glass walls to see the dark silhouette of the plane approaching in the distance. Dana flattened her palms against the metal table. For the first time since she'd seen Ariel, her authority didn't look like a weapon. It looked like a costume falling apart. Evan Ortiz stumbled into the doorway, breathless. "Ma'am!" Dana rounded on him. "What?" He stared at Ariel, then at the documents on the table. "Homeland Security Command wants all footage from our checkpoint. Now, they're investigating whether any safety intel was delayed." The room turned to ice. Dana's jaw slackened. "What did you just say?" Evan swallowed. "They're tracking who was supposed to deliver the mechanical risk report to the International Board. The conference chair called this morning asking why it never arrived." Dana's eyes flicked to Ariel like a spotlight. Ariel couldn't help it. Her voice broke. "That was me," she whispered. "It was my mission." Dana looked at her as if she'd never seen her before. Not as a kid, not as a problem, not as a target, as the person who had been carrying the warning. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked like she wanted to rearrange time. Through the corridor loudspeakers, another voice came, tighter, more urgent. "CB-208 touchdown expected in 2 minutes." Ariel stood slowly. Her knees felt weak, but her spine didn't bend. She stepped toward the window and watched the runway through the narrow strip of glass. People outside were holding their breath as one body. Even the loudest travelers were silent now. Far beyond the terminal, the plane emerged through cloud cover, descending too fast, too unevenly. Its landing gear trembled against the wind. The engines screamed low and angry. The runway lights blinked like a path through a nightmare. Ariel pressed her palm to the glass. Under her breath, she prayed, not for vindication, for mercy. The aircraft hit the runway hard, a violent bounce, a shuddering screech that made everyone flinch. Smoke curled from the tires. It veered once, corrected, and finally slid to a shaking stop at the far end of the tarmac. Then the terminal erupted. Cheers, sobs, people collapsing into each other, strangers hugging, a dozen voices shouting, "Thank God!" into the air like it might fly upward. Ariel sagged in relief, tears spilling freely now. No one had died, but the truth had landed. Behind her, Dana was frozen, not cheering, not breathing. Her radio crackled with a final blow. Preliminary analysis indicates mechanical anomaly consistent with risk report flagged last week. Dana's knees seemed to soften. Ariel turned, not with triumph, with heartbreak. "You tore up my passport," she said softly, "but you also tore up time we didn't have." Dana's mouth trembled. "I didn't know." Ariel nodded once. "That's what makes it so dangerous." Dana stared at the floor, drowning in the weight of her own hands. And in that silence, something else entered the room. Bigger than authority. Bigger than fear. Consequences. The emergency landing had shaken the entire airport into a stunned, trembling silence. But what approached the TSA corridor next would shake it even deeper. A hush fell across the hall as two high-ranking airport security directors walked briskly toward the checkpoint. Their footsteps were sharp, unified, purposeful. Behind them, in a dark navy blazer, moved a woman with the unmistakable aura of authority. Not loud, not aggressive, but anchored. It was Dr. Helena Myers, Ariel's mother. 44, black, composed, sharp-eyed, carrying a confidential ID badge clipped to her coat, the badge of the incoming CEO of Continental Blue International Airlines. She wasn't running. She didn't need to. The airport obeyed her presence before even knowing her name. Dana Cruz stood at the inspection room doorway, arms stiff at her sides. Her face had drained of color. She looked like she didn't know whether to stand at attention or sprint out of the building. Helena stepped into the room with quiet gravity. Her eyes moved from the torn passport on the table, to the shredded envelope, to her daughter's trembling hands. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was soft, but it cut cleaner than any blade. "Ariel, are you hurt?" Ariel shook her head, tears still drying on her cheeks. "No, Mom, just shaken." Helena gently touched her daughter's shoulder. Then she turned to Dana, and in that single turn, power shifted like the weight of the ocean. Dana attempted a stiff smile, one that cracked instantly. "Ma'am, I was just following procedure. This child was uncooperative and—" Helena raised one hand. Dana stopped speaking mid-sentence. It was not a gesture of anger. It was a gesture of authority. "I reviewed Airport Command's urgent call," Helena said calmly. "They informed me that critical safety documents failed to reach the International Council on time." Her gaze swept the table once more. Dana swallowed. Helena continued. "Those documents contained warnings regarding the CB-92 system anomaly, the same issue that nearly caused a disaster minutes ago." Ariel looked down, guilt twisting inside her, but Helena gently lifted her chin. "This was not your fault," she whispered. Then, louder, "It was someone else's choice." Dana tried again, voice shaking. There was no way to know she was carrying anything important. She didn't say who she was. She didn't say who you were. Helena's expression was unreadable. "My daughter does not need fame to deserve dignity." Then she lifted her badge. The room inhaled all at once. Continental Blue International Chief Executive Officer, Helena Myers, authorized access level 1A. Dana's hands fell to her sides, her lips parted in disbelief. You're the new CEO?" she whispered. Helena nodded once. Dana staggered back as if pushed. Ariel stepped closer to her mother, voice broken. "She tore my passport. She mocked you. She ripped the envelope." Helena touched the ruined passport gently, as if honoring something sacred. Then she looked Dana directly in the eye. "When you tore my daughter's passport," she said quietly, "you didn't just destroy documentation. You destroyed time. Time that could have saved hundreds of lives." Dana's knees visibly weakened. I didn't mean—" Intent does not erase consequence, Helena replied. There was no fury in her tone, only truth. Then Helena recited a verse softly, but loud enough for the room to hear. Whoever sows injustice will reap calamity. Proverbs 22:8. Evan Ortiz, standing by the door, felt that line land like a hammer. Helena stepped forward. You abused your authority. You profiled a minor. You destroyed federal travel documentation, and you intercepted aviation safety reports in transit. Dana's voice shrank to a whisper. I didn't know. That's exactly why people get hurt under your watch, Helena replied. 2 airport directors stepped in behind her. Officer Cruz, one said, you're hereby removed from active duty pending a full federal investigation. Dana's breath shattered. You're firing me? Over her? No, Helena said softly. You're being removed because your actions endangered lives. My daughter was simply the first victim, not the only one. Ariel clutched her mother's sleeve, not with fear, with quiet relief. Come, Helena whispered. We're leaving this room. As they stepped out, dozens of passengers watched in reverent silence. Word had already spread. Phones recorded the moment. Some people murmured prayers. Others simply stared at the girl they had watched get torn down minutes earlier, now walking out with a mother whose presence felt like justice itself. Dana stood alone in the inspection room, shaking, her world collapsing under the weight of her own cruelty, and the whole airport, felt the shift. If you've ever seen truth rise at the perfect moment, then what happens next with Ariel and her mother will astonish you. Don't forget to like and subscribe and stay with Dignity Voices to follow the unfolding justice. Because justice at the airport doesn't come with shouting. It comes with a protocol designed to rebuild the system. The moment Helena Myers stepped out of secondary inspection with Ariel at her side, the airport stopped being an ordinary terminal. It became a command center. Word had raced faster than footsteps. A Continental blue aircraft nearly went down, and a TSA officer's misconduct delayed the warning. The story was already swelling beyond the building's walls, a living thing now, fed by screenshots, nervous whispers, and a dozen shaky videos posted online. Helena didn't walk toward the noise. She walked toward authority. 2 Homeland Security supervisors met her at the corridor junction. They flanked her not like escorts, but like soldiers falling into formation behind a general. A TSA internal affairs lead followed, eyes hard and unreadable. Airport command staff arrived next, radios buzzing in their fists like sparking wires. Dana Cruz was still inside secondary inspection when the first wave hit. A senior TSA director opened the door without asking. Officer Cruz, stand up. Dana straightened too fast, trying to salvage control with posture. I already explained. The minor was uncooperative and... Stop. The director's voice was ice. You will not speak unless questioned. Dana blinked. Sir, A Homeland Security supervisor stepped forward, holding a tablet. We have footage from Checkpoint C. We have multiple passenger statements. And we have your body cam feed. Dana's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Helena entered behind them, calm enough to make the room feel smaller. She didn't look at Dana right away. She looked at the torn passport on the table, then at the shredded envelope, then at the ripped seal on the safety file. Only then did she lift her gaze. Her voice was quiet, steady, and lethal in its clarity. Begin the review. The TSA director nodded once. Activating protocol. Blue review. Federal misconduct escalation, suspected discrimination, and interference with aviation safety intelligence. The words hit the air like a gavel. Evan Ortiz, standing against the wall, felt his spine tighten. Protocol Blue wasn't a slap on the wrist. It was the agency's maximum internal emergency procedure, reserved for violations that endangered lives or national security. Dana finally found her voice. You can't do this over one passport? A Homeland Security supervisor cut her off instantly. This is not about a passport. This is about consequence. He tapped the tablet. The video played. The screen showed Dana in the immigration hall, her smirk, her posture, her hand snatching Ariel's passport. Reep. The sound echoed even in replay. Then Dana's own voice came through the speakers, ugly and clear. No passport, no flight, no importance. This is my checkpoint. I can do whatever I want. Dana's face turned gray. She took a step backward. That video doesn't show what she did first. The TSA director clicked pause. What did she do first, Officer Cruz? Dana's eyes darted. She was trying to cut the line. She had suspicious papers. I followed procedure. Helena finally spoke again. Procedure doesn't include humiliation. Her eyes didn't burn. They measured. Procedure doesn't include shredding federal documents. She took a breath. And procedure doesn't include intercepting life-saving safety intelligence because you decided a child didn't look like she belonged. Dana's throat worked like it was trying to swallow a stone. The Homeland Security supervisor turned the tablet so Dana could see the timestamp overlay. Your destruction of the passport occurred at 09:12. He slid to the next record. The safety conference chair called at 09:47, asking why the CB92 anomaly report had not been delivered. He swiped again. CB208 declared emergency at 11:26. One last swipe. Emergency landing at 11:41. 227 passengers on board. He looked Dana dead in the eyes. You delayed the report window by 2 hours and 29 minutes. The room fell into a silence that felt heavy enough to bend metal. Dana's voice shook. I didn't know what those papers were. Helena didn't move. That is exactly the danger of bias, she said softly. You don't need to know a person's worth to destroy it. You just need arrogance, Dana snapped, desperation leaking in. But nobody told me who she was. She didn't say she was your daughter. A TSA internal affairs lead spoke for the first time. Officer Cruz, do you require a traveler to be related to a CEO to treat them as human? Dana flinched like she'd been slapped. The director nodded toward an agent at the door. Escort Officer Cruz outside. We're moving this to formal interview. Dana's eyes widened. Outside? Am I under arrest? You are under federal investigation, the Homeland Security supervisor replied. And you will surrender your badge. Dana stood frozen. Two agents stepped forward. One held out a hand. Badge. Now. Dana's hand trembled as she unclipped it. The metal hit the supervisor's palm with a soft, final clink. That sound was louder than any siren. Dana's voice cracked. You're ruining my life. Helena watched her without triumph. Only sadness. No, she said. You ruined your life the moment you decided power belonged to your ego instead of your duty. The agents guided Dana into the hallway, and that was when the larger firestorm arrived. They emerged into a corridor lined with staff, passengers, and airport workers who had quietly gathered. Phones rose. Some faces were furious, some shocked, some hollow with guilt for not speaking earlier. Dana tried to lift her chin, but her knees didn't cooperate. She looked smaller here, stripped of the stage she used to perform cruelty. A bystander, the same man who had tried to speak up earlier, muttered, That's what authority looks like when it forgets humanity. Dana's jaw tightened, and she shot a poisonous glare at Ariel, as if this child had orchestrated her downfall. Helena stepped between them, not aggressively, just presently. Ariel's shoulders trembled, and Helena squeezed her hand once. That squeeze said everything. You are safe. You are seen. You are not alone. They passed through the concourse toward Airport Command. Inside the command conference room, everything moved fast. Screens lighting up with data, legal counsel on speaker, federal email chains printing in real time. A safety board representative joined via video call, jaw set, voice shaking with gratitude that no one had died. Helena didn't posture. She didn't gloat. She worked. She presented the safety report timeline. She explained the anomaly. She laid out why those warnings mattered and how close the world had come to tragedy. The federal lead listened, then said, This is now a dual-track action. TSA misconduct and discrimination case. National aviation. Safety breach investigation. He looked at Helena. If you wish to press formal charges, we will support it. Helena looked at Ariel. Ariel breathed in, steadying her voice the way she had in that inspection room. Yes, she said quietly, because if this happens to me, it happens to others. And next time, people might not survive. Helena nodded, proud but not loud. Proceed. The federal lead signed the digital order. Protocol Blue review confirmed. Case opened. Officer Cruz suspended without pay pending prosecution. A heartbeat later, Dana's access revoked across every system in the building. Her name grayed out on TSA logs like a power line cut. Evan Ortiz watched it happen and felt the truth settle into his bones. This wasn't revenge. This was the system turning back toward what it was supposed to be. Helena stood, gathering the torn passport pieces into her palm like something sacred. We will rebuild what she tried to destroy, she said. Not just this passport, the trust, the culture, the dignity. Outside, news alerts continued to explode. But inside that room, the loudest thing was the calm force of justice landing exactly where it should. By the time the sun tilted past midday, Terminal C no longer felt like an airport. It felt like a crime scene. Yellow security tape cut across entrances. 2 entire TSA lanes were shut down. Screens that usually flashed, "Welcome" now blinked. Temporarily closed for federal review. Passengers spilled into other terminals, confused and irritated, until they saw the news lighting up every phone in every hand. Breaking: TSA officer under federal investigation after destroying miner's passport, delaying safety intel linked to emergency landing. Update: Continental Blue CEO confirms bias-related misconduct trending. Dignity first, Nashkriyaf Protocol Blue. Ariel Myers. The story had escaped the building. It was everywhere now. Airport televisions, live streams, radio announcements, social feeds. The footage of Dana ripping the passport played on loop, each replay louder than the last. Inside Airport Command, the firestorm expanded. A row of federal officials sat behind laptops like judges at a modern tribunal. TSA regional leadership arrived in suited urgency, their faces tight with disbelief. Homeland Security legal counsel joined by video, voice-clipped, answering no questions except the ones they demanded. Helena Myers stood at the head of the main conference table, not pacing, not dramatic, still as a runway at dawn. Ariel sat beside her, small in size but impossible to miss. Her torn passport was now sealed inside an evidence sleeve, labeled with case numbers and timestamps. Her mother's safety report, once mocked, now lay in the center of the table like a sacred document. A federal lead spoke first. We are classifying this as a Level 1 aviation integrity breach. His finger tapped the timeline displayed on the wall. Failure to deliver a time-sensitive mechanical risk notice contributed to a near-catastrophic event. We are investigating how airport security culture enabled that delay. TSA's regional director cleared his throat. With respect, sir, Officer Cruz acted alone. Helena lifted a calm hand. Acting alone doesn't happen in a vacuum, she said softly. Not when a whole hall watched a child get humiliated and nobody intervened. Not when a supervisor felt free to rip federal documents on camera. That is not an individual failure. She looked around the room. That is a system. Silence. Then Helena slid a folder forward. Not her daughter's, but her own. Here is a list of prior complaints filed against Officer Cruz over 7 years, she said. 3 internal, 2 public, all dismissed as misunderstandings. A Homeland Security counsel leaned in, surprised. Why were these not escalated? A TSA supervisor shifted uncomfortably. Not enough evidence. She met performance metrics. Helena's gaze stayed level. She met metrics while breaking people. Ariel listened quietly, feeling the weight of what the adults were finally saying out loud. She didn't look triumphant. She looked tired, the way kids look when they learn the world is harder than they were told. But she also looked steady. The federal lead nodded once, then spoke into the record. Effective immediately. Terminal C remains closed until full protocol compliance retraining is complete. All TSA supervisory staff on duty during the incident are placed on administrative review. A National Bias Audit Task Force will be deployed to this airport within 48 hours. Body cam retention and escalation failure will be revised across the region. He turned toward TSA leadership. You will cooperate fully. If we find systemic negligence, this becomes a national restructuring. The words landed like thunder without sound. Outside, the consequences rippled faster than policy. A line of news vans crowded the arrivals curb. Reporters in windbreakers spoke into microphones, their voices high and urgent. Airport employees whispered in break rooms, staring at the footage again and again. Some were angry at Dana. Others were angry at themselves. Evan Ortiz stood near a service hallway, watching the storm unfold. A senior manager approached him. Ortiz, she said quietly. You were there. Why didn't you stop her? Evan's throat tightened. Because I was new, and she was a supervisor, and I thought if I spoke up, I'd lose my job. The manager nodded slowly. Thank you for saying that out loud. Evan looked past her, through glass doors at Terminal C, where workers were already replacing old signage. A new banner was being rolled out in bold navy letters. Travel with dignity, security with integrity. He felt something break inside him. Not shame alone, but resolve. In a holding room on the lower floor, Dana Cruz sat under fluorescent lights that made her look smaller, paler, older. Her uniform had been collected as evidence. Her badge was gone. A federal investigator spoke to her in a voice so neutral it felt merciless. You are aware this includes a potential felony charge for destruction of federal documents and obstruction of safety intelligence. Dana stared ahead like she was watching her life float away on a screen she couldn't turn off. I didn't mean for any of that to happen, she whispered. The investigator didn't blink. Intent doesn't change the record. Dana swallowed hard, eyes glossy with panic. They're making me a monster. I was just doing my job. Her own voice sounded hollow, even to her. Upstairs, Helena gave a brief address to the internal board. Not a press performance, just truth. My daughter's dignity was targeted because someone believed they could decide who mattered. She let that sentence sit. Today the system learned what happens when authority forgets humanity. We will rebuild this culture, not to protect the airline's image, to protect the people who pass through these doors. Ariel watched her mother. She'd seen Helena in boardrooms, in meetings, in quiet late-night work. But this was different. This was leadership that didn't need to roar. A board member asked softly, "What does Ariel want from this?" Everyone looked at the girl. Ariel's voice was small, but the room leaned toward it like it was the loudest thing. I want them to stop doing this to kids who don't have a mom who can walk through restricted doors, she said. And I want people to stop being silent when they see it. Nobody spoke for a long moment after that, because the truth didn't need decoration. By evening, the president of TSA's regional division issued a public statement acknowledging institutional failure and promising reform. A hotline was launched for travelers to report misconduct. The airport announced an independent civil rights review committee. Terminal C, once a stage for cruelty, was becoming a blueprint for change. Ariel stepped onto a quiet balcony overlooking the runway. The same runway where CB-208 had skidded into safety hours earlier. She pressed her hand to the rail, feeling the metal cold under her fingertips. The system had collapsed around what Dana did. But Ariel didn't feel powerful because Dana fell. She felt powerful because truth rose. Helena came to stand beside her. You okay? Ariel nodded slowly. I think so. I just didn't know one person could do so much damage. Helena looked out at the runway lights blinking like patient stars. One person can do damage, she said, and one person can stop it. She glanced at Ariel. Today, you did. Ariel leaned into her mother's shoulder, the noise of the airport distant now, as if justice had closed a door and turned down the volume on the world. 3 weeks passed. The winter sun hung low above the airport glass, spilling warm gold across the redesigned entrance. The building looked familiar, but different, like someone had opened the windows and let truth blow through every hallway. Ariel Myers stepped through the automatic doors, backpack slung over one shoulder, a brand new passport tucked safely into her jacket. The humiliation, the ripped papers, the emergency landing, all of it felt like a story written in another lifetime. But the lesson lived in her bones. The first thing she noticed was the silence. Not the silence of fear or tension, but the silence of order. TSA agents spoke respectfully to travelers. Supervisors stood attentive instead of looming. Signs displayed clearer procedures, softer wording, and one bold new tagline plastered from wall to wall: travel with dignity, serve with integrity. Ariel paused beneath it. She wondered how many people would walk past that sign, never knowing that a scared 15-year-old girl helped put it there. A woman approached the checkpoint, a mother holding her son's hand. The boy smiled nervously at the officer inspecting their documents. The officer smiled back, gentle and patient. Ariel watched as the family passed through without a single raised voice. She exhaled. A TSA employee nearby recognized her, not with the stare of gossip, but with quiet respect. "Miss Myers," he said, stepping forward. "We didn't expect to see you today." Ariel nodded. "I wanted to check on things." He smiled, moved. "We're better because of you. We've been retrained. We see things differently now." Ariel didn't bask in the praise. Humility had always been her armor. "I didn't do it alone," she said softly. She approached the new glass partition at Checkpoint C, the very place where her life had cracked wide open. Now the space felt brighter, warmer, almost holy. Gone were the shadows of power abused. Gone was the coldness that once wrapped the room like a fist. A new poster hung at eye level. "We honor every traveler. No exceptions, no silence." Her mother's signature was at the bottom, and beneath it, discreet but present, in partnership with the Office of Civil Rights and Aviation Integrity. Ariel touched the glass gently. Behind her, a familiar voice said, "Beautiful, isn't it?" Helena Myers stood there in a soft gray coat, her expression warm. "You didn't have to come today," she added. Ariel shrugged slightly. "I needed to close the loop." Helena nodded. "Then let's close it with grace." They stood together in a silence deeper than mere quiet, a silence shaped by survival, revelation, and change. Travelers passed behind them, unaware that the runway lights, the safety protocols, even the staff's tone had shifted because of this girl. Finally, Ariel spoke. "I don't hate her." Helena met her eyes. "I know." Ariel looked back at the checkpoint. "I don't even want revenge. I just want it to mean something. That what she didn't happen for nothing." Helena placed a hand over Ariel's. It meant something, and it changed something. A smile tugged softly at her lips. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in the hallways long after the moment has passed. Ariel nodded. Then she walked forward, step by step, through the checkpoint, through the space where she had once been torn down, and out into the bright concourse beyond. No alarms, no raised voices, no fear, just grace, just peace, just dignity restored. And that was enough. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with Dignity Voices, where stories of justice, courage, and faith rise above everything meant to break us. Because what happened to Ariel is not just a story about an airport. It's a story about what happens when dignity is tested and truth fights its way into the light. The Word of God teaches us, "For the Lord loves justice and will not forsake his faithful ones." Psalm 37-28, Ariel lived this truth. Even when humiliation tried to bury her, God turned her silence into strength, and her suffering into change. And this is the value. Sometimes God allows us to stand in front of injustice so we can become the reason it ends. Sometimes He lets a system fall apart so He can rebuild it through the quiet courage of one person. Ariel didn't shout. She didn't fight. She stood firm, and her dignity changed an entire airport. Power is loud, but integrity is louder. And when a young girl chooses grace over revenge, the world learns the true meaning of justice. Stay with Dignity Voices for more stories like this, where truth rises, faith stands tall, and dignity always wins.